Welcome back, all my fight fans. Today, I'm going to be giving you guys my predictions for UFC 312 in Sydney, Australia, coming up this Saturday, February 8th. I'm incredibly excited for this fight card, even though there are a lot of people out there saying that this is not the most stacked pay-per-view ever. Some people are saying that the fight night that was last weekend with Adesanya and Imavov was more stacked than this card. I understand those sentiments. I don't completely agree. There are a lot of Australian fighters on this card. That's why it might seem a little bit lackluster, but there's a lot of hot prospects on the early prelims and the prelims that I'm excited to talk about today. There are quite a few fighters that are under 25 years old, so I'm excited to see some new journeys begin. And yeah, as always, I'll be going over every single fight on the card, so if you guys want to skip to the main event or the main card, you guys can go down to the timestamps in the description. With that all out of the way, let's get into the fights. So kicking us off with the first fight of the night, we have a flyweight bout between, and I apologize here because these are some very difficult names. I'm going to butcher some names really badly here today. Young Sung Park, that was actually the easy one. He's from South Korea, versus Nayem Jargal Tumendemberel. I apologize, my Mongolian viewers, if there's any of you out there, because I absolutely butchered that name. We have a South Korea versus Mongolian fight at flyweight. I'm not the most familiar with either one of these guys. The Mongolian is 8-1. He has 5 wins by submission, 2 by knockout, 4 of those coming in the first round. So half of his wins are first round finishes. I'm going to take him to win, but I have to be completely honest. I'm not the most familiar with either of these guys. Moving on, we have a lightweight bout between Quinlan Salkilled, I don't know how to say that name, and an Indian name. Great, here we go. Ansul Jubli. I have no idea who that guy is, but the Quinlan kid, he's an Aussie, and he is 25 years old, 7-1, just coming off of a Contender Series win. So I'm excited to see what he does in his kind of UFC official debut here. It's going to be an exciting fight. I know that. Next up, we have a welterweight bout between Jonathan Mykalev and Kevin Jousset. There's so many tough names today. I'm going to take the Jonathan guy, the Australian. He is also 25 years old, also 7-1, and also coming off a Contender Series win. So I'm excited to see his debut as well. I'm going to pick both of those Contender Series fighters in a row because I watched their fights on the Contender Series, and they were quite impressive. Jonathan got a submission, I believe it was a triangle choke in round 2. And yeah, I'm excited to see what he does in his UFC debut as well. Next up, we have a lightweight bout between Rongzhu and Cody Steele. So I'm not the most familiar with the Rongzhu guy from China, but Cody Steele, again, another Contender Series fighter. He's actually 7-0, so he's undefeated. He's 29 years old, and he actually won his Contender Series fight, but with a body shot, which was quite impressive. So this Cody Steele guy, I'm excited to see how he does. I'm also going to pick him, so I'm picking all the Contender Series fighters to win on the early prelims. I hope this is like some starts to some great careers here, and we get to see kind of their first fights in the UFC. It's always exciting to watch guys' like rise like that, so hopefully we see the rise of some new stars in the early prelims. But let's move on to the regular prelims. Kicking us off with the first fight on the prelims, we have Colby Thicknesse, who will be cornered by Volkanovski, versus Aleksandre Topuria, cornered by Ilia Topuria. This is going to be really fun to watch those two corner battle each other, and obviously the fighters themselves. With a last name like Topuria, if he has half the power that Ilia does, I'm going to be taking him by knockout. So I'm not the most familiar on his brother, but I'm going to be taking Ilia's brother in this one, probably by KO round 1. So moving on, we have a women's flyweight bout between Wang Cong and Bruna Brasil, spelled with an S, even though she's from Brazil with a Z. Anyways, I'm taking Wang Cong. She's a -400 favorite. She's 6-1. Really, her only loss is, I don't want to say it's by fluke, because she got submitted in the second round in her last fight. I hate saying fluke because it takes away from the person who beat her. But Wang Cong, I hope I'm saying that right, she is deadly, man. She's going to be knocking out, I think, absolutely everybody in this division. She had a kickboxing match with Shevchenko back in the day, I believe. And yeah, I think she's going to be a huge problem for women's flyweight, and I'm going to take her by first round KO. And then next up, we have a lightweight bout between Tom Nolan and, damn, I'm trying to learn Russian right now, and this one's going to be hard for me. Viacheslav Borshchev. That's probably nowhere close, but I'm going to take the Russian. As always, if you guys know me, I always take the Russian. If their name ends with a V, definitely bet some money on them. So he's only a minus 142 favorite. He's not undefeated or anything like that. He's 8-4, but he has 6 wins by knockout. And from what I remember, he's a pretty good kickboxer. So I'm going to take him to win, even though Christopher Nolan's son there is also a good fighter. He's not actually his son. I'm just joking. But next up, we have a featherweight bout between Jack Jenkins and Gabriel Santos. Gabriel Santos is a minus 240 favorite right now at the moment. I'm probably going to take him to win. He's 11-2, 3 wins by knockout, 4 by submission. Jack Jenkins is also a fantastic fighter with 6 wins by knockout, 3 by submission. He's 13-3. He could easily win this fight. I think it's going to be a back and forth banger. I think there's a reason why this is headlining the prelims. The matchmakers have been so good this year. I feel like they're giving us a good one. At least I hope so. Hopefully this isn't a boring fight and I'm jinxing it right now. But I'm going to take Gabriel Santos by first round KO. Let's move on to the main card. Kicking us off on the main card, we have a welterweight bout between Jake Matthews and Francisco Prado from Argentina. Now, even though Jake Matthews is a minus 200 favorite, he's 20-7, he's a veteran, I got to go with this Francisco Prado guy. I don't know what it is about him, but he's 12-2, 6 wins by knockout, 6 by submission, so he's finished every single one of his wins. 9 of those have come in the first round. So he seems like an absolutely deadly fighter. I feel like he's getting overlooked, and I'm going to take him by first round KO over Jake Matthews. I know that that's kind of wild because Jake Matthews has been in the UFC for so long. He's kind of a veteran at this point, but I don't know, something about this Prado kid, when you finish 9 of your 12 fights in the first round and you finish all 12 wins, that's pretty impressive. He only has the 2 losses, which came recently. He lost to Zellhuber and he lost to Malarkey. I'm so bad with names. Anyways, I'm going to take Prado first round knockout. Moving on, we have the light heavyweight bout between Jimmy Crute and Rafaldo Bellato from Brazil. A lot of South America versus Brazil or versus Australia, New Zealand matchups on this main card, but I don't know where to go with this one. Rodolfo is 12-2, 7 wins by knockout, 4 wins by submission, 8 of those being in the first round. So again, I might have to go with the Brazilian. I normally don't. I normally pick like the veterans like Jimmy Crute or Jake Matthews, but something about this guy also. That's a lot of first-round finishes. I'm going to take him. I'm going to take Rodolfo Bellato by a first-round knockout. We'll see how it plays out. I'm sure I'm pissing off some Aussie fans right now. I'm sorry. Next up, we have a heavyweight bout between Justin Tafa and Tallison Teixeira. I'm going to piss off some Kiwi fans now, too. I like Tafa. Don't get me wrong. I like Tafa. He kind of fights like Mark Hunt. Mark Hunt's one of my favorite fighters of all time. But Tafa is 7-4. And Tallison is, I think, 7-0. He's 25 years old, and each one of those 7 wins has come by finish, either by submission or knockout. So he's finished every one of his fights. He's undefeated, and he's only 25, which is super young for heavyweight. I don't know. Again, I'm going to go with the Brazilian. I'm going to take Teixeira, first-round knockout. I feel like this has to be done in the first round. Tafa's so aggressive. Yeah, I'm going to take Teixeira, first-round knockout. Now we get into the championship fights. This is where it gets really interesting. So I've been waiting for this fight for years. I thought Tatiana Suarez should have been champ like 4 or 5 years ago. It just sucks that she had injuries, and then I think she had cancer too, which she overcame. But she's finally getting her shot. She's 11-0, and she's facing Weili Zhang, who is, at this point, 25-3. It's a lot of fights, man. She has 11 wins by knockout, 8 by submission, 11 in the first round. It is so hard to bet against Weili Zhang. She's probably my second favorite female fighter in the world right now, still underneath Valentina. She's always number 1 for me. But I really like Tatiana Suarez. She has 2 wins by knockout, 6 by submission, 11-fight win streak. I mean, that's obvious because she's 11-0. But she has the wrestling to get this done. She really does. She has all the skills to end Weili Zhang's night early. I just don't know if she has the power, the will, the drive, the championship mentality. She's been out of the ring for a long time. There's so many what-ifs in Tatiana's corner, whereas Weili, she's just tested and proven so many times. Her losses that she had are again, I don't want to say fluky, but, you know, the head kick was kind of out of nowhere. And I don't know. I just feel like Weili Zhang is just bulletproof right now. I don't really see anyone beating her. If there is one dark horse in this division, I think it's Tatiana Suarez. But it's so hard to bet against her. So as you guys can tell, I'm very torn on this fight. I'm going back and forth, back and forth. Whatever prediction I give you guys right now probably won't be the prediction that I have the day of the fight. Even hours leading. Even when they walk into the cage, I'll probably be changing my prediction back and forth. But I'm going to go with Tatiana by upset. I'm cheering for her. I'm rooting for her. I want her to overcome these injuries, take that belt, and defend it a few times. I thought if she became champ like 4 or 5 years ago, she would have had a great shot at becoming the greatest women's fighter of all time. I thought this is a girl who can go undefeated, defend multiple times, beat everybody decisively because of her wrestling. I was so high on her. I still am, don't get me wrong, but there's just those what ifs. So I'm going to take Tatiana. I'm going to say that she overcomes the mountain and she somehow finds a way to beat Weili Zhang. I'm going to say that it happens early. I'm going to say probably second round submission for this one. And yeah, we'll see how it plays out. That's an exciting fight. And finally, in our main event of the evening, we have the middleweight championship on the line between Dricus Du Plessis and Sean Strickland. So, couple things. I'm going to go over how I feel about this fight. Then I'm going to go over what I watched in the first fight, because I watched it live, and then I just recently rewatched it. And then I'll give you guys kind of my X's and O's, more objective breakdown of what's actually going to go down. I'm obviously going to correctly predict this, because I always get my predictions right. I'm obviously joking. The last fight night, I think I got 1 out of 4 correct. So take my picks with a grain of salt. But how I feel about this fight is, well, I don't really like Sean Strickland. I'm going to just put that out there. The thing that upsets me the most is a hypocrite. They annoy the crap out of me. I hate hypocrites. And Sean Strickland is probably the biggest hypocrite in the entire sport. He made his entire career off of bullying people, putting them down, saying mean things to them. And then Dricus comes along and says a couple mean things about Sean, and Sean just breaks down like an absolute crybaby. He goes around saying, oh, this guy's so mean. You can't say stuff like that. Biggest hypocrite ever. Anybody who can dish it out but not take it, they just annoy the shit out of me. So I'm not a big fan of Sean Strickland. I've always kind of liked his style. I like people who work behind the jab because I'm a boxing fan. But man, is he boring. He doesn't get many knockouts. He had a couple in his earlier career, but it's been more decisions in the last 10 years, 5 years. And he's just very, very boring. Like, he says we're going to do the man dance and we're going to stand in the center, we're going to bang it out, and he never does that. He always teeps the guy away the whole fight and does this like lazy Philly shell that looks disgusting. And the jab in the face the whole night. And the jab is literally the only reason why the first fight between him and Dricus was even close. So if Dricus has an answer for that jab in the second fight, it's over because Sean had nothing for what was coming his way. But Dricus, he just kept eating jab after jab. He's like a Pez dispenser the entire fight, just eating all of the jabs, and that's why his face looked like a horror film at the end of it. I think that's the only reason why people think the first fight was close. But before I get into that, let me just rag on Sean Strickland a little bit more. I liked his style for a long time. Then I watched the Joe Rogan podcast. And for some people, that made them like Sean Strickland. For me, I like instantly hated him after that. I'm like, I want this guy to lose every single fight that he's now in. Because him saying that he wants to kill people, he wants to feel what it's like to take a life, all of this super psychotic shit is just disgusting to me. Like, it doesn't sound cool at all. It doesn't make you sound alpha or masculine. It just sounds psychopathic and it sounds ridiculous. And he needs help. In that podcast, he's like breaking down, talking about his father abusing him and stuff. And I'm like, bro, I like kind of feel bad for you. Like, please get a therapist, work through your issues. You're obviously incredibly insecure as a man. And I mean that honestly. Like, that's my actual psychological diagnosis of Sean Strickland. He's incredibly insecure. And a lot of fighters are. It's just the way it is. A lot of people get into fighting because they're insecure of how they're going to do in a fight, or they think that they're not manly enough if they don't know how to fight. So a lot of people get into fighting for that reason. I'm not saying every single MMA fighter that's out there is insecure or has insecurities, but Sean Strickland just screams it. He screams insecurity like he's not comfortable with his masculinity. Like, he doesn't know that he's tough. Like, he has to always prove it. And it's got to be something with his dad. I'm not here to do a full psychoanalysis of Sean Strickland. Maybe I would do that on my Deep Thought channel, but not here. I'm going to wrap up with shitting on Strickland at that. But yeah, needless to say, I'm not a fan of the guy. I think he's a horrible human being. I think the stuff that he says is ridiculous. And I'm somebody who's like conservative. Like, I actually kind of agree with some of the stuff that he says, but just the way he says it, I'm like, man, you're not doing us any favors. Like, please shut your mouth, go in there and like actually fight somebody. Don't just teep them and jab them the whole night. Like, do the man dance. If you're going to say you're going to do the man dance, stop like telling people, hey, don't shoot on me, I don't want to be taken down. Go in there and frickin' fight your ass off, win your belt back. Like, I don't know, just whenever he opens his mouth, it pisses me off. But getting on to their first fight, the first time I watched it, I thought it was close. I actually had it 3-2 for Dricus. I thought it was a very, very close fight. I thought Sean Strickland put it on him early. He got that jab going. He kept Dricus on the back foot a little bit. But then as Dricus started to come more and more forward, he just kind of dominated and took over the fight. Dricus was landing takedowns. He was landing kicks. He was just landing more dynamic striking, higher volume, I think, overall. I don't know what the end strike stats were, but I feel like Dricus landed more. But then I went and re-watched the fight recently, and I gotta be honest, I gotta score it like 4-1, if not 5-0 for Dricus. I thought Sean did better, but going and re-watching the fight, it was literally just the jab and the damage done to the face and the commentators commenting on that. Besides that, I thought Dricus won every single round, to be completely honest with you. So going into this rematch, here's kind of how I see it playing out. So Sean has basically two weapons. He can teep you and keep you backwards that way, and it's a good tactic. I've been saying for years that the teep and the even like a front side kick, both of those should be almost used like a jab. Like, you should be popping them out there constantly. You should be front kicking right to the solar plexus, side kicking to the knee, side kicking to the body. I feel like you should have one of your legs out there almost as a jab the whole night. And I like the way Sean does that. It's actually very, very smart. However, you need to build off of that. If you're going to be teeping guys the whole night, you better be following it up with like snazzy head kicks, hit some question mark kicks, like throw something else at them other than just the teep. The teep is to back them up so you can set up something else, not just a jab, because that's also what a jab is for, is to keep them at the end of your punches, to keep the range, right? Sometimes you set up jabs because you want to work your way inside. Sean doesn't do that very often. He'll walk forward, but he doesn't use footwork or head movement to work his way inside. He just jabs to keep you at the end of it, and then occasionally he'll throw his right cross, which that actually might be his best weapon. I haven't seen anybody say this before, but Sean's cross is actually really good. That might be his best weapon in the fight, is when he actually turns that rear hand over. That's when he lands, I think, his best punches. So for me, those are really the only weapons that Sean has. And if Dricus finds a way around them, it's going to be a long night for Sean Strickland. Dricus, on the other hand, I mean, it's hard to talk about him, right? Because he has skills. He can wrestle. He can submit you. He's got chokes. He's got kicks. He's got punches. He's got the full bag, man. He's got like GSP's repertoire. It's just like 720p. It's like the Walmart version of GSP's skills. Everything that he throws looks sloppy and slow and like he's stuck in mud. Even when he's going forward, it's like, is there like a reverse gravity field on this guy? Like, what's going on with him? There's so many different ways people have put it, that he strikes like a Looney Tunes character, or there's so many funny comments on how Dricus fights. I'm not the first one to say this, but I just feel like it's hard to comment on him. I can never pin down his style. I can never pin down how good he is. I can never pin down the technicality of his skills, because sometimes he throws things beautifully, and then other times he's like trying to land a takedown with his forehead, and you're like, what are you doing? Like, you're falling into the guy and somehow you get a takedown. I don't know, man. Dricus he's an interesting cat, that's for sure. I love the dude, like, outside of the cage on the mic. Unlike Sean Strickland, I think Dricus is a total Chad. I really, really like Dricus. Nothing seems to bother him. It's just like water off a duck's back for him. Nothing seems to get under that guy's skin. And he just seems like a really, really chill dude, like a really genuine, down-to-earth, fun guy. So I like Dricus. So I'm going to be cheering for him in this fight. That's probably the most I can say on it, is that I'm cheering for Dricus. I think he's going to win because I thought he won the first fight. And I thought the first fight was... Don't get me wrong, just because I scored every round for Dricus on my rewatch doesn't mean that I think it was not a close fight. I think it was a close fight. I just thought that Dricus won every round. So I can only really say that. I can't really tell you that Dricus is going to like find a way around Sean's jab and find hooks in this fight, because he might just fight the same way that he did in the first fight and still find a way to win. Dricus is weird, man. I don't know if he's like an adaptive fighter that's going to be updating his strategy every time he gets in there and he's going to look like a new fighter. He looked a little bit better when he got his nose fixed and his gas tank got a little bit expanded maybe, but skill-wise, I don't know if this guy can evolve, because the techniques that he has, like I said, it's like a dollar store version of GSP. It's like he's got everything, but it's just slow and weird and sometimes not perfect. I don't know. I'm going to take Dricus to win. I don't know if he's going to get the finish in this one, but he's saying he's going to, and at this point, I'm just going to believe Dricus. So I'm going to take Dricus by 4th round. I don't know if I should go submission or knockout. Maybe I'll go submission, because it would be funnier if he got Sean's back and he made Sean tap. I think that would be funnier. But I would also love to see Sean Strickland get knocked out. As I think I've made clear in this video, not a fan of Sean Strickland. If you are, that's totally fine. If you like the way he fights, that's awesome. Like, good for you. I just think it's boring, and I think it's a little bit one-dimensional, and I don't think he's going to be a defending champ with just teeping and throwing a jab. And I know he does more than that, but that's like 95% of what he does in there. So if you're a fan of his style, cool. If you're a fan of the guy himself, I would highly reevaluate that. I would highly recommend reevaluating that. But yeah, I don't like the dude. He rubs me wrong. He's hypocritical. He makes fun of other people, and then he can't take it himself. Like I said, politically, I probably align with him on a lot of things, but it's just the way he talks about politics. I'm like, you're not doing the Conservative Party any favors here. You're probably turning more people away from being, more conservative, more traditionalist. So I don't know. I think the guy's an absolute scumbag. I think yelling at children on the road and having road rage and pulling guns on people, all this stuff is just absolutely childish, and it shows that you are a weak man, an insecure man, and I don't mean weak as in he can't fight. I'm not going to fight Sean Strickland, although I'd fight anybody, but I'm not going to fight a professional fighter and think I'm going to win. I'm not saying that he's not tough. I'm just saying that he's a weak person. Very, very weak mentality. So I just think Dricus gets it done for that reason. I think he's got a stronger mind, and he's going to win via Looney Tunes KO in the 4th round. So that's my prediction for the fight. You guys can let me know down in the comments if you guys disagree. I'm sure many people will, so we can hash it out down there. If you guys like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends to help boost this channel and the algorithm. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, it means the world to me. Enjoy the fights. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.